Hello traders, welcome to Elliott Cafe. In today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin and how we're breaking the wave counts, and the main reason why I'm still being bullish on this amazing invention. So let's take a look at Bitcoin and see where we've been and how we can see this chart simply with the naked eye, and then just kind of try to put an Elliott wave pattern through this whole structure on here. We know from the Elliott wave principle that the markets advance and retrace, and they do so by having impulsive wave and corrective waves, right? And we have 5 waves kind of going up in a full sequence, and then that's followed by a corrective pattern kind of coming down like that, right? So this whole move up here, it's in 5 waves. You have a corrective move in 3 waves, then the pattern repeats itself. You go back up in 5, you correct again in 3, you go back again up in 5, and so on and so forth. And this is a normal market progression. And that's how we kind of evolve into the prices of the stock market, into the equities and everything else that's pretty much out there. So if we just look at this structure on here and we just take it basically from this $150 lows, we can see clearly that this whole move up here, it's very impulsive, right? So we traveled the span here of 3 years where Bitcoin was extremely bullish, and it started in January 2015 to about January 2018, and we've reached highs as high as about 19,870. And what we wanted to see now is what is this whole pattern that came from the highs and gave us this little kind of sideways structure. I mean, what we can do with this whole thing up here, right? We can say that Bitcoin hasn't moved much. It had its period of extreme growth, right, for about 3 years, and for the past 2 years and a half. So for the whole 2018, 2019, that's already 2 years. So about 2 years and a half, we've been moving pretty much sideways, right? The center line of this price action, it's pretty much up into these levels. Around $7,000 would you take and have a little bit of a medium line into this price. So knowingly that we have impulses and corrections, we are expecting that after a corrective structure, we are getting into the next impulsive move. And the whole question is, how do we know if this structure here is done? And when are we about to embark in the new bull trend into the market? And for that, we just have to go backwards a little bit and just kind of take a look at the decline and what started from this 1987 highs back in December 2017. And you can clearly see, even without me putting any labels on here, that the move from the highs to these lows, just by looking at it, we have something in the middle here that's pretty much sideways. We have a decline, a sharp decline. We have something going sideways, and then we have another sharp decline. So can I count this move in being an impulsive move to the downside? I say I cannot, because it doesn't look that way. It doesn't matter in how I put a labeling on here. The clear view of this whole thing, it's an impulse down, a sideways move, and an impulse down. Okay, so that's a 3-wave move. Now, from these lows all the way up to these highs, I have more waves, and I can identify the structure as being an impulsive move because it doesn't have only 3 waves on here. I can count more than 3. So I can count 1 here. I can do this here, right? Then you have 3. Then you have another pretty sizable correction up here, and then you have this thing up here, right? So that's a 5-wave move. All right, so far so good, right? We have a big impulse move from here. We have a corrective pattern, and now we have another impulsive move. Okay, now here is where things start to get interesting. If Bitcoin reached a low in December of 2018, when was this? Let me just kind of go back and just find out, right? I think it was December 2018. That means that this whole move, this whole correction is over, following this impulse, and we're ready to move higher. Now, we all know that corrections happen in time and in price. So whatever doesn't happen in price as a corrective pattern happens in time as we allow for this whole move up here to be digested sideways. Okay, and I think this is what's going on at this moment. Now, how can you incorporate this whole move that's on here to be a corrective pattern? Sideways corrections here can be labeled WXYs, right? Maybe flat corrections. It's hard to do this as a zigzag because zigzags, if you know your Elliott wave, are 5, 3, and 5, like that. So, because this move up here, it didn't start in a 5-wave pattern, I don't see anything in here that resembles a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Okay, that means that this whole structure here cannot be a zigzag. So it's not a zigzag. What does it start with the 3-wave correction, which we identified having over here? A, B, and C. There's only 2 types of corrections that start with the 3-wave. And that is the flat and that is the triangle. So if I have a triangle in here, that means that this is an ABC for the first leg of the triangle, for the leg A. Then I got to have a B wave, which is supposed to be in 3 waves. It would look something like this. Okay, that would be a B wave. Then I would do a C wave, down, A, B, C, D, and E, and then you would break up higher, and this whole thing up here would be a triangle. All right, now let's look at the price action that we have since then. I can identify 3 waves, which is perfect. The problem that I have is that this move from here to the highs, it's an impulsive move. So this screws up the triangle interpretation, short of making this an A, B, and a C, which is a pretty ridiculous way to count an impulsive move, right? If you stick by the guidelines and the rules of the Elliott wave principle of the right look, this looked like an extremely awkward B wave. And unless the market proves me that this is a triangle by breaking up higher, I don't want to consider this as being my primary interpretation. And I think this is where we can get in a lot of trouble. So let's eliminate that. And let's just look at it as being a clean impulsive move. Okay, so if it's an impulsive move, oh, the other thing that I wanted to say was, what's the other one? So it's the triangle, and the other one, it's the flat. Again, a flat is a 3-3-5 structure. You go in a 3-wave, which is fine, but then you need a 3-wave to the upside. So you need to go something like this for a flat, up to at least 90% retracement of this whole move down. That would be considered a flat. I think we've done about a 78.6 back in here. So even that doesn't reach the qualities of a flat. And then you would have, to the downside, you need to have a 5-way structure. Remember, flats are 3-3-5. So you would need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that would be a, that would be a flat. It would be a regular flat if we're coming here. And, if we're breaking lower, same way, because we haven't made new highs. So since I don't have a triangle and I don't have a flat, what do I have? What correction do I have on here that can basically fit the scenario? And the only one that it's clean and simple, this is a wave 3 or 1 or to get this impulsive move, or a wave A, right? And then you have a 3-wave correction. And now you have another impulsive move. And now you have another 3-wave correction. So what this is telling me is that this is an impulsive move followed by a correction, and then this is another impulsive move followed by a correction. So can this be a wave 3? And I would have to go back and look at the prior counts and all that. But this can be, it doesn't matter. This can be a wave 3, or it can be a wave 1, an impulsive move, or it can be a wave A. Okay, but the fact that we're correcting, that means that we have to make new highs above 1980.70 into the price of Bitcoin. So corrective move to the downside, this would be a wave 2. Okay, or a wave 4, right? 2 or 4 in here. And this means that this move here is the initial leg of the move to the upside. This is a wave 1. This is an ABC down in a wave 2. And now we're starting to build a case for a much larger move to the upside. All right? Impulsive, corrective. Impulsive, corrective. Breaking up higher. So this is how I identified this as being a you know, the easiest way to read the price section since this lows on here. And this is what convinces me and puts me on the, you know, on the camp that thinks that Bitcoin is going to go to new highs, just based on this Elliott wave structure interpretation. Now, what am I wrong? How can I be wrong in this interpretation? How can the market surprise me and say, no, we're not going to new highs, but rather than that, we're going to new lows? So I would have to have some kind of a complex correction. Let's say that this whole thing is not done, and we still have to correct lower, because maybe, only maybe, this move up here in price, it's not enough to correct this whole move. Remember, we either correct in price or correct in time a little bit longer. Now, if we were to correct in time, and the move, as I've showed you, finished at this moment right there, right? Because this is where the ABC move finishes. The new impulse move actually starts here, December 2018. That's when we have wave 1, and that's when we have wave 2. So the question is this enough in price and in time to finish up this whole move? I would say it's fine. But if the market surprises me and it's not fine and it's not over, you know, that means that we have to correct lower. Now, I do have a channel here, and everybody knows this, you know, massive trend line that comes from these highs, and the market attacked it a little bit up here. I mean, you can come even a little bit lower with it, right? You know, maybe on a closing basis. And then, you know, we're still fighting with this, trying to break above this thing, right? So now, how do we count this and have this still as a corrective pattern? So I would probably put a channel on here and then just go, okay, Bitcoin needs more time to correct. Maybe this whole thing was too much, too fast. We've got 3 years, you know, for sharp rise in prices, 2.5 years kind of going sideways on here. And maybe it needs a little bit more time. Maybe it still needs to drag itself lower, maybe towards $2,000 or $3,000. And how does that happen? And if it starts with an ABC, and we're going complex, okay, this is a zigzag. We can have an A, B, C. So it's the first zigzag. We have a W. Okay. And the problem that I have is that this here has to be an X wave. X wave can be anything they want, but they're not impulses, right? They can be triangles, they can be flats, they can be zigzags, but usually they're not impulse waves. So again, I got issues with this move up here. Let's just say that that's an A wave X. It's a full wave, makes, you know, everybody think that it's going to go higher, but it doesn't. So we go in a WX, and now you have to do a Y wave to the downside. Okay, this Y wave, again, has to be in 3 waves in an ABC correction, or it can be a WXY, XZ, right? So the problem that I have on there is because this wave up here, again, it's very hard to count this as an A wave, okay? As part of this impulsive move to the downside, you would have to be an A, B, C, and then this would have to be the Y wave, which is higher than wave W. All right, so that's my first indication that this is not a good wave count. And then you would have to have another X here and maybe another A, B, C to the downside to do a Z. Okay, so you would have a W, X, Y, X, and then another A, B, C down to do a Z, and then this will create like more of those, you know, treacherous complex corrections, you know, like a triple, this would be like a triple zigzag possibly, right? Or a, you know, it's not a flat, so it can be a triple tree. So literally you could have a triple zigzag on here. But the fact that this whole move up here, it happens the way it does, it just gives me issues with that count. Okay, and here is why. Because, and if I go and I take this move, and that's why I wanted to, you know, talk about this as being dissecting the wave count and taking the wave count apart, is like, why would this be an A wave? Because it doesn't look like an impulsive move. And to me, to be part of an overall corrective structure, right, it would have to be an A, B, C if I am to identify this, or even if it's a flat. Let's say that this is a, you know, a wave A down, and then you have an A, B, C for B, right? This is a flat, so you would be something like this, which is extremely awkward, right? You would have an A, and then you would have this up here as a B wave. So A, flat in B, and then you're doing a C wave decline, and that would be your Y wave, okay? So W here, and then you have an X, and then you have the Y wave in a flat, and then you have the ABC down, right? Extremely awkward looking move on there. And if you're just a little bit more patient, I will go down here and I'll show you why I have issues with this move being an A wave. And we're going to take this whole thing here and dissect it a little bit. So after this impulse, we're getting this move down on here. And to me, even if I go to a 2-day chart, right, this whole move after the impulse, it's a 3-wave move. It starts up at the top, it comes all the way down here, it goes here, and then it comes down, right? So clean, this is the largest corrective wave of this whole sequence is on here. So it's got to be a B wave, right? Because it's going up like that. And then you have a sharp down, which usually the wave C's are the ones that are very, very sharp. So now, how do we dissect this move to look at it and convince me that this is not an A wave as part of an ABC correction? It's still a 3-wave, but here is what's going on. I think this is a complex correction coming down. So this is a wave 1 from the larger structure, and then this whole thing up here, it's a complex move. And the way we start that, again, we go over at the beginning of this move, and we're talking about this leg right here, right? And if you look at it, the way this starts in 3 waves, okay? You have this move here, you have this move here, and then you have this over here, right? That's exactly how this whole thing starts. Starts with the 3-wave move. Then you have another 3-wave to the upside. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you got 3, you got 3. Okay, now we're coming in here and we're looking at this and say, okay, from here down, what's going on here? All right, so we can start already to label these things, because you can have a 3-wave move that starts like that. You know, we can probably label it as an ABC. We're going to label it as a W. Then you have a 3-wave move to the upside here. So this has got to be an X. Okay? Because we don't have a triangle. There's no triangle here. We're actually resuming lower, right? So you have a W, you have an X. And now you got to have a Y wave all the way up to these lows. All right? And this wave here has to be in 3 waves. So you have the first section of the move down here. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or it ends up here to this level, so this is A. Then you have a 3, 3, 5, a flat in B, okay? And then you have another wave down here in 5 waves, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Or, hear me out, if you're not happy with this latest move here that appears in 3 waves, okay, I can point to this C wave, so this would be an A. Okay, this would be a B up in here, right? It just goes in this flat here. So this would be the B wave. I'm just going to make it funky like that. Sorry, guys. Just kind of let me go back. There you go. And then you would come to the downside here. Sorry for, I just kind of deleted everything. But I think we were left with this being an ABC for a W, an ABC for an X, and then we were doing another ABC down for a Y. So this would be the first A, this would be the B in here, so A, B, and then you would have the C wave down. And we're talking, this is a 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, and 5. And if you're not happy with this being a 3-wave move, maybe this whole thing gets a flat. Okay, so you go in an A, it's got to be a flat, so let me just kind of do that really quickly. Let me just take my tools up here, because it's just going to be easier for me to get that done. I'm going to bring this combo bear on here. So I'm just going to go, 0. I'm going to go in a W. I'm going to go in an X here. Okay, I'm going to go in a Y wave. And then we have another X. So this is either here or lower. That would be your X, and this would be your Z. Okay, so... And if I decompose this, I'll show you quickly, because it's just a little bit better. So I'm going to decompose it as a correction. So you would have, so because this is like a 3-wave moving to new lows, I can move this wave up here, and then this would be your B. You go 3, 3, and then 5 in B, so that's a flat. And then you can come down here, and then this you can do your flat in here for wave X. Decompose this as a correction, so it would be 3, 3, and then 5 for X. It's just easier to do it without having to keep deleting this way they can kind of stay labeled on the chart without doing it with my marker, right? So again, 3 waves down in W, 3 waves up in X, 3 waves down in Y, completes this first leg of the correction. The market is not satisfied with this whole correction, so we need to do more. We go up in an X, then we come back and we do a big flat in a wave Z position. So we decompose this as a correction, and we have this as a wave A. So you go in an 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for a wave A. Then you got a super long and kind of complex wave B going up, and then you have your C wave to the downside. Mistake here, guys, because this is a it can be a flat with a 5-wave decline, and it can be a zigzag because I think we've made new highs above this wave up here. Then this wave A has to be moved up here, okay? And then this becomes a 3-wave move, because otherwise we have issues with the count. Well, actually, you can even have it here, but it would have to be something like this. We would have to decompose it as a correction. So it would be, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for an A, possible triangle here in a wave B, and maybe a very small C to the downside, or wave B goes up here, and this is some kind of an ending diagonal in a wave C. So you would have wave A in 3 waves, you would go up in B and then down in C, and this you complete your whole correction. So going back, and I'm sorry for spending so much time into this detail up here, but the reason why I do that is because it's very hard to count this, because you have so many overlapping waves that it's impossible to count this whole move as an impulsive move. So it's very hard to make out of this move like an A, B, and then C to the downside. Okay, it needs to be a W, X, Y, X, and then Z to be thought of as a complex correction. Okay, you don't have in wave A, you need to have an impulsive move, and we don't have that. And that kind of builds the argument that this whole move up here, it's a corrective leg. Okay, and if you see anybody labeling something like this impulsively, I think we're just asking for not respecting the early wave principle. Okay, so once again, we're looking at this whole thing as being impulsive to the upside, and then having a 3-wave correction in here, and then we're looking for another impulsive move up here, and then we're looking for this complex correction, which is already over. And now what's going on since this lows? So let's go and dissect that a little bit, and I'm going to step into the middle of this thing and just kind of look at it as well. So I'm going to go to the 1-day chart, and we finish our correction, and now we're looking to build a move to new highs here and go way above $18,000. Go back to a 3-day chart. So the question that we have right now, if this is a wave 1 and this is a wave 2, that means that this wave up here, it's the beginning of the larger advance to new highs above 19,870. And we should start that with a wave 1, because again, we would have to have another impulsive structure to the upside. So that would be a wave 1 and a wave 2, a wave 3, 4, and 5, and we keep we continue building this impulsive movement and creating a trend to the upside. Now, the issue that we have so far is the Bitcoin has been moving sideways since May, beginning of May, all the way to today's date. We haven't made any progress. We've had a nice reaction from the lows on here, okay, and we've done a little bit of a consolidation on this, maybe a couple of weeks, whatever this was in here, and then we had another impulsive move. All right. The good news is that you can count this whole move as impulsive. The question is, and in everybody's mind, is this move over? Is this first impulse done, or are we still, or are we still in the middle of creating a new high before we correct lower? The other question is, do we need to correct lower? Right? So if we're thinking of this as an impulse, every impulse that's complete needs to be followed by a 3-wave correction, just exactly like we've had back into this, the other example that I've showed you. Okay, so do we need to correct all the way up here? We don't have to. I mean, this is one of the one of the guidelines that you should correct lower. But this wave 2 can be a very small wave, and you continue to move back up higher. Now, what do we have from the lows all the way to these highs? Because I think this is important. It's very important where we are in the structure. And the way I would dissect this wave, I would take the major portions of this and try to make sense of it, because corrections are the one that's giving you, where you are in the wave count by looking at the corrections, not necessarily look at the impulse, because the corrections are the one that kind of breaks the wave into pieces. Now we notice that we've made, a new high back on here, okay, which is just cleanly just above these highs on there. So now if we start from these lows and we move up here, we can notice that we can have a wave 1 up, we can have a wave 2 down, and now you can have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have a wave 3 in here, right? And you can have a wave 4, and then you can have a wave 5. All right, so this is a simple, complete structure. I don't think we're breaking any rules up here. I would have to check if this wave 4 comes into the territory of wave 1. Otherwise, it's a no-no. So you can have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this would be a wave 1 of the sequence. Then you would have a very small wave 2 on here. 1, 2. Okay. And then you would have another 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, maybe this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for a third. Just the smallest second wave on there. Then you would have this as a 4, and then this is a 5. Okay, and this would be your top of the 3 wave, of the third wave. 1, 2, 3. That means that we're either in this wave 4 continuous sideways, or this wave 4 is already complete through the simple flat correction in here, and then you've done a 5th wave, like that, and we're already done. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now we're supposed to be correcting lower. And I have in our room the counts, the detailed counts that we're looking for. This is just a general, wave count here that I'm looking for to see if this move here, it's complete, or if it still needs room to break to the upside. Okay, and since then we haven't done much. We haven't done any impulsive move. We have a bunch of kind of corrective moves that are happening on here, which I'm not, too keen about it. I'm not even considering them, impulsive for a break lower. Now, if this wave 5 is done, we will look for this to correct lower and maybe start to have some kind of a, zigzag on here, that maybe it would come to the, wave 2 lows on here before we can move lower. Remember, we're looking for Bitcoin to continue to move higher. Now, the other count that I have is that this whole thing here maybe looks like a triangle, right? And it starts from here, from these lows, and you go in an A, and then you have an A, B, C here for a wave B. So you do a running triangle, A, B, C, D, and maybe an E wave complete, and this whole thing is a triangle, and we're actually breaking up higher. Okay, now if this whole thing is a triangle in a 4th wave, that means that I got to get a 3rd wave somewhere, and that 3rd wave would be this wave, because you would probably have to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is my 3rd wave. So I have a 4th, I have a 3rd. Now I need a 2nd, which is either from here or a flat. Now, if this triangle is pretty large, I have to consider this as being a flat, but I do have an issue with this move up here. The flat would look like this. It would be a 3, it would be a 3, and then it would be a 5. And that would be your flat in a wave 2 position. And then this would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this would be your wave 1. Okay? So it would be a 1, flat in 2, up in 3, triangle, and 4, and up in 5. If you're not happy with that, that means that this whole thing up here, it's a wave 1. This whole thing, right? Like I've showed you before, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then this is a 2nd, that's a 3rd, that's a 4, and that's a 5th. Now notice this. This wave 3 is shorter than this wave 1. Okay? Which means that this wave 5 has to be shorter than wave 3. So you need to measure this whole move from here to here. And you cannot allow this wave 5 as a target to be longer than this 3rd wave. Okay? Usually, you would get some kind of a multiple, Fibonacci multiple of the distance traveled between this wave, between the origin of the move and the end of the wave 3 in here, and then you do some kind of a 382 or 618 for a measured move for this wave 5th. All right, so this is where we are right now into the price of Bitcoin, and that's why I'm trying to give it as much room as possible to work to the upside and to continue to to move up here, because we have this kind of sideways consolidation. But if it wants to break lower, and my first clue for a break lower would be a break below these levels, then a break below these levels, and then we would consider this wave 1 complete up into these levels, and then we will look for a correction lower. And the only way that could start, guys, is as a leading diagonal, because you would have a wave 1 on here, a wave 2, a wave 3, a wave 4, and a wave 5. This would be a leading diagonal. You would have your corrective move in an ABC like that. Okay, so 1, 2, then you would get sharp 3 down, 4, and 5. Because you more than likely you would want to have a zigzag for a part of a, for a second wave pullback. Usually that's what those are. And this would be just wave A of the sequence. Okay, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then you would go up in 3 waves, up in B here, then do another drop down for a C. This would be a wave 2 low. And then you would move back up higher. All right, so this is kind of how I'm reading in case, that's pretty much the only way I can see this declining. And this has to start happening soon. If it doesn't happen soon and we're starting to attack these highs, this leading diagonal is going to be a big failure. And when we have a failure like that, that means that the wave 5 is coming. And this whole thing was possibly a triangle or the start of a new uptrend. Okay, so this is how we dissect the wave counts. And this is how, we look, and by using the Elliott wave principle and the rules and the guidelines and logic and, diving in. I know it could be exhausting. It could be very, very exhausting. And you might need, a lot of, diving down into the Elliott principle and the theory, but all things, go together. And again, the more you study this, the more you would speak this language, you would understand why the moves are like that, what makes sense, what doesn't, what's a right look, what isn't, and then how you can take advantage of some of these things. And if you guys want to know more about it, continue to subscribe to this channel. I'll try to put more educational videos on here. I have a bunch of list of things that I want to talk about, from psychology of trading to trends to best setups to things like that. If you want to actually trade with us and have daily videos and explanations of counts and details and stuff like that, you can come into our pro room. I have a link below the video. And, I hope you enjoyed it. Give me some thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.